Okay, a lot of you may have seen our project car before. It's got a little bit of history and a few fans behind it for being pretty fast. This is Fuzzy FK8, or Dave Bruda's Civic Type R. Now, Dave has been fortunate enough to be on the cutting edge of the Type R since it was released in 2017 and has many records and milestones to show for it along the way. However, that hasn't come without a host of challenges, and that brings us to here. Fuzzy has retained the fastest record on Canadian soil with his car since 2017, and at times he even held the record for the fastest in the world. But much like being a boxer, holding that title isn't an easy one. So we felt it was time to take a race driver approach and run after the challenge of a world record. It's time to inject the power of dreams and what race driver is really about, competing to win in the challenge ahead and to bring that title back to Canada. Okay, we're here with Dave Bruda, the man behind the Fuzzy FK8. Dave, welcome.
Thank you.
All right, nobody knows this car better than you do. Start by walking us through it.
Well, it's a 603 wheel horsepower Type R. It's the Canadian record holder right now, and it's a fully built engine. So essentially we've taken the engine out of the car, built it from the top to the bottom, and so we've upgraded the turbo to a big Garrett turbo. And so got a fully built fuel system to be able to handle the extra boost and things like that we put through it as well. We actually have additional fueling as well that we use in meth that we add to it to create cooling and to also act as a fuel agent as well. And really most of the different parts within the car have been affected at this point to get us to a 600 horsepower setup. But we're kind of, I think, tapped out a little bit at that point.
Tell us about some of the challenges you had bringing the car to this level.
Well, you know what? It's a pioneering build. The Type R is so new at this point that everything that you're kind of working with is not tested and true at this point. So we have to do a lot of R&D to see what's working and what's not working. But unfortunately, the tire selection size that we used last year was not right. And that came from pioneering. I took the ideology of kind of big block, rear wheel drive drag racing, and a 28-inch tall tire that you would see on these big drag cars, and said, let's go put it on the front of the Type R and let's see what happens. And so we were able to run 1150 with the car, but we did it at 129 mile an hour. That's usually a 10-second car. So we were off the mark by quite a bit. So when we go back and we analyze why were we off the mark, because we were essentially running 3 gears in full boost, and the front half of the track was better than we had ever had in the history of the car. Fantastic. By the time we got to 4th gear, the gear ratio was too long. And so the car fell out of boost and it had to fight again to get back into boost. And by the time we actually fought to get into boost, we've just lost all sorts of power and it's just kind of coasting to the end of the track. So you're really kind of getting 11.5 seconds with 3 gears and a little bit of a fight with nothing at the end. So definitely frustrating, recognizing that obviously there's some small changes and things to kind of get the goal that we need. But to go further, we have to increase the power holding of what we have. We just can't put more power on it right now until we affect change.
Okay, so you're joining us here at Honda Canada's Race Driver, and you know on Race Driver here we try to take a title, take a world record, whatever it is. What is the current world record for this car, and where are you in relation to it?
Well, I have a little bit of a steep curve to run out of after it at 11.5. Right now, the current record sits at 10.1. It's owned actually from a fella in the United States out of Washington. They've done a great job there, essentially with very similar power to what we have, a little bit more, and a different setup. And then there's also another vehicle that's at 10.2. So there's really, these two cars are really competing it out against each other right now for that record, and they're out of Puerto Rico. The same tuning group that actually tuned the car for us last year out of Puerto Rico, Red Star. So,
now, with the right setup, are you confident you can take that record? With the right setup, are you confident we could take that record?
I am. I think we've done a lot of due diligence to look at what it is that we've been doing, where we're off the mark to understand it effectively, where our competitors are, what it is that they're doing, what they're using, and maybe kind of where they're going with some of the things that they've been sharing. So we're pretty confident, but I also felt like, Jeff, with a little bit of help from you maybe getting us a Honda jet to strap on this, that, we could maybe easily take it.
Well, there's a bigger jet now, so it's even faster.
Right.
Okay, with that said, tell us about the setup. What is it going to take?
So I think what we're really going to need to do is we're going to have to increase the power handling capacity of the vehicle. Right now, it's probably good for, with its piston and rod setup, it's probably good for about 650 to 700 wheel horsepower. We're at 603 horsepower, so we're pretty close to riding the razor's edge. And I'm just not a believer in that. You don't want to be in inefficiency. You want to be able to have some room and not feel like you don't have the confidence that you're going to break it. And so that's where we're going to go, and we're going to essentially build the bottom end to 1,200 wheel horsepower. So that's like going into the dealership and being able to have a Honda Civic that has a capability of 1,400 horsepower or something like that to handle. It's way more than we're ever going to need or use, but gives the confidence factor that we can build on top of this. And so the idea is to put a big turbo on it and really try and take a stab at between 850 to 900 wheel horsepower. Seems like a little bit of a pie in the sky number now, but I think it's very attainable with the right amount of fueling. And so we're going to add extra fueling to the car as well. Actually with a port injection system on top of what we use now in our direct injection system that is standard on the car that we've upgraded to a more robust system. So we'll have direct injection fueling and we'll have port injection fueling as well. And then the car will go on a diet. And I think between all of those different pieces, it should give us the setup that we need, and then the tuning will come in. And that's essentially where all of those parts will then be speaking to each other effectively so that we can then get the power to the ground and get a result there. And our tuner will also come to the track with us and work regularly to be able to do each pass to get us the result based on the current condition of the day.
Now, you're not doing this entirely by yourself. Who you got working on this car?
Right, so I got a team of people that have always worked on the car for me and with me, and so I kind of work as the build development agent, and I drive the car. So I get my hands dirty here and there, but I'd much rather put some of the top people in the world, manufacturers, on it, gain their information, and put it all together as a kind of like a contractor. And so I have Brian Newcluster, who's actually going to be coming and doing our build development on the project. He's actually worked on it for the last few years and extremely passionate, just like myself. Bugs me on my phone all the time with everything that we should be doing in the car. So he's fully invested and understands exactly what requirements we need, and allows me when I'm at the track to really focus on my job as to getting the car down the track and affecting change on the track. So he's really working on the one side, and then we've got some fabricators and things like that we're going to bring in as well to create some one-off pieces that we're going to need to kind of create a custom turbo kit. It's not an off-the-shelf piece that we're going to create. We're going to create something that's not in existence right now. We're going to try a few different things that have not been done on the Type R, and we're going to make it look a little nicer at the same time.
Perfect. Well, David, no time like the present. Why don't we get to building this car and see if we can take back that world record?
Sounds good. Let's go.